Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Let's make sure we are streaming in all of the places. Let's do that. I want to tell you about my Instagram page. I started one, Brain Stand Up. Brain Stand Up. I think I'm going to be posting my stand-up. If you don't know why it's called Brain, maybe you should listen to my stand-up. It's on Instagram, Brain Stand Up. Just started it yesterday. Can't find my picture with Tom Green. Don't know what the hell I did with my picture with Tom Green. Ooh, I got to find my picture with Mitch Hedberg and put it on there. I have all-time favorite comedians, and I'm fortunate enough to have watched them in person, met them, expressed my appreciation for them. You only live once this time around, so go see some bands and go see some comics that you're a fan of. Do not delay. All right, we are streaming on Facebook, which is great. Let me just send this out to the groups. Agree to disagree, TNAM preparedness, TNAM fake news. Join our daily live show right now. There we go. That has been sent. Perfect. Broadcasting to you live from the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, somewhere in between two formerly tariffed nations. My name is Brian Engelman. Today is Saturday, April 12, 2025, and this is the TNAM AM Show here on the new American media, because the old American media has failed you. Thank you so much for being here today. Please jump into the comments section. Type your name. Tell us where you're typing from, where you're watching us. Love to continue this conversation with you, not just talk at you. Today we're going to talk about, did President Trump win over Bill Maher? We're going to talk about the United States southern border becoming a militarized zone. What does that mean? And a whole bunch more. So let's jump right to all of the things. Oh, I guess I could tell you before I do. Yeah, let's go ahead and bring up our Instagram feed. Is it side by side? No. Let's go side by side. Bam. Put this up here. The places to follow the new American media. Type in the new American media on Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, Kick, DLive, and YouTube. On Telegram and Signal, we're at TNAM and TNAM Chat. On X, we're at American_media_. And the Agree to Disagree show covers the TNAM AM Show, and that's on Spotify and Apple. So please subscribe to that. If anybody would like to participate in independent journalism and become a crowdfunder, we appreciate you. You can send us a rant on our Rumble channel. So if you send us a rant on Rumble, we're monetized for that. If you let the advertisements play on Rumble, we're monetized for that. On Patreon, the new American media. Venmo at Brian Engelman, Cash App, $ Brian Engelman, and PayPal at Fuzz Installment. So that's Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. Okay, those are the places where you can find us. Let's get this back on the screen and jump into the program. All right, DC Drano saying, President Trump has just authorized the Department of Defense to militarize the Roosevelt Reservation along the U.S. border in California, Arizona, and New Mexico. This means the 60-foot buffer zone on a 700-mile stretch of our border will now be considered military property, and troops can seize illegals to hand to Border Patrol. Translation, he just activated the military to completely shut down the invasion of our southern border. Let's see the Roosevelt Reservation in red. Not familiar with the term. The Roosevelt Reservation does not extend through Texas because the federal government owns less land at the border. And National Guard troops deployed by Governor Abbott already have had a role detaining border crossers. Thank you. This is how you defeat the deep state plan to overthrow the United States. Also, let's listen to Jim Jordan talking about how Jim Comey used a false document to spy on the Trump campaign. This is treason. This is treason, pure and simple.
Has been incredible, and we are now finally getting to the place, thanks to folks like you and John Solomon, we're finally getting to the place where people realize what went haywire, what was true and not true. The Democrats on your committee, as you guys are examining these documents and seeking out, subpoenaing documents, are you finding that they are as willing as you are to take a good look and maybe have a little bit of come to Jesus moments where they say, man, we didn't realize this?
We have not seen that yet. I mean, you know, you can always hope. You can always hope that the case. But I always like to start with, remember the basics here. You had a presidential campaign, the Clinton campaign, who had hired a law firm. The law firm then went and hired Fusion GPS, a public relations firm, who then went and hired a foreigner, Christopher Steele, who then went out and put together a false document, who then the FBI, Jim Comey, used the false document,
the Steele dossier,
as a basis to get warrants to go spy on President Trump's campaign.
And to get into the campaign, you hit Carter Page, you hit Papadopoulos, you hit a couple of people, and you go, well, we need that warrant to extend to anybody in their cell phone. Bam, you got President Trump. It is so shady. And there have to be repercussions of treason for Obama and Biden.
That, to my knowledge,
and Comey, the rest of them.
Has never happened in American history, but it did. And it was all driven by money from the other campaign and lies to run the opposing campaign, you know, to run a spy operation on the opposing campaign. And now what we have in this release is we have some of the 302s. We have the 1023s. The 302s are where the Mueller FBI, though, during the Mueller investigation, the special counsel interviewed Christopher Steele. So we can look exactly what was said there. Even though we've gotten a lot of that information in the Mueller report and everything else, you actually have the 302. And then you have the 1023s where Steele's handler was talking with Steele and reporting that information, which we know was garbage, but you actually have those documents. So we think that's something new that we've gotten here in this release from Director Patel.
Sir, you're working on a continuing pattern of this. So in the 16, the Democratic campaign, 6 the FBI and their opponent, Donald Trump. In 2021, it's the White House, Joe Biden's White House, his general counsel's office, that's sicking the FBI and even grabbing President Trump's old phone and turning it over with executive privilege claims and others, notwithstanding, to the FBI to sick it on him again. It seems like the cycle just kept going.
Yeah, it did. I mean, this is lawfare. This is politics jumping into our justice system, which is not supposed to happen. I mean, and of course, that could sort of culminate in the raid on his home, and then the four, from at least from the two indictments from Jack Smith, and I think you almost have to lump in even though they're state cases, the Alvin Bragg and Fonnie Willis. It's all part of this effort. We know Nathan Wade was coming here and talking with people in Washington related to the investigation there in Fulton County, Georgia. So yeah, it's all part of this lawfare, using the law to go against your political opponents. But the sort of start of it was exactly what you uncovered way back when the Clinton campaign, Hurricane Helene, Fusion GPS, then Christopher Steele putting together the dossier.
Mr. Chairman, the evolution of this story has been incredible, and we are now finally getting to the place, thanks to folks like you and
we've known about this for years. We're just begging for some accountability.
And John Solomon, we're finally getting to the place where people realize what went haywire, what was true and not true. The Democrats on your committee, as you guys are examining these documents and seeking out, subpoenaing documents, are you finding that they are as willing as you are to take a good look and maybe have a little bit of come to Jesus moments where they say, man, we didn't realize this?
We have not seen that yet. I mean, you know, you can always hope. You can always hope that the case. But I always like to start with, remember the basics here. You had a presidential campaign, the Clinton campaign, who had hired a law firm. The law firm then went and hired Fusion GPS, a public relations firm, who then went and hired a foreigner.
Okay, watch your claws. All right, all right. Yeah, we desperately need some accountability with Clinton, Obama, Biden, Mayorkas, Fusion GPS, Perkins Coie, all of the treason, all of the lawfare. We've got to get to the bottom of it. Let me just touch on something that we covered yesterday, this water treaty shared from George. Beheezy tweets. We know now that Trump has authorized military control of border lands.
Countries share water.
In California, Arizona, New Mexico. 1944 water treaty. Mexico has been in violation of, and they owe Texas, was that 1.3 million acre feet of water? I will make sure Mexico doesn't violate our treaties, doesn't hurt our Texas farmers. Just last month, I halted water shipments to Tijuana until Mexico complies with the 44 water treaty. My agriculture secretary, Brooke Rollins, standing up for Texas farmers. We'll keep escalating consequences, including tariffs and maybe even sanctions, until Mexico honors the treaty and gives Texas the water their own. So this is really just standing up for yourself. That this Donald Trump administration is about standing up for yourself and negotiating better deals. And it's the end of being taken advantage of. The powers that be have been running roughshod over America for a long time, and nobody seems to have, very few people have seemed to care. You know, that's the weird part. Why does nobody care? Don't bite me. He gets fired up and he rubs. Hey, no nibbling. What are you doing? And this is getting feisty this morning. He's like the Tootsie Roll owl. A 1, 2, 3, crunch. Yes. He's a lover and a nibbler. He's a biter. You gotta watch him. All right. No. Don't step on the computer, please. What did you just do? Okay, buddy, I'm trying to do a show here. I like when you're up here. No, I'm not adding a bookmark. What did you just... Hey, stop. I love Nimbus being a part of the show, but not this version of Nimbus. Not the one that's stepping on the keyboard and changing the channels. Hi, guy. Okay, I love you too. Aw, we'll do a headbutt. Feel warm. Welcome to the Saturday show, everybody. It's a little different. All right, but here was John Solomon again. We just heard from him. Talking about Perkins Coie and how they were framing President Trump. Let's get this take from yesterday. About the Arctic frost, we touched on it yesterday.
Senator Johnson, Senator Grassi just sent this to me a little bit ago while we're on air. It's a major development. You're taking a look at a letter right there that was just sent to the FBI Director Kash Patel and the Attorney General Pam Bondi. What does it say? It says that Congress has obtained evidence that shows that the Biden White House was directly involved in trying to help start Jack Smith's investigation on the January 6th probe against President Trump. Specifically, that the White House counsel's office secretly obtained President Trump's and Vice President Mike Pence's former phones and giving them to the prosecutors, basically sicking the Justice Department on his future competitor, his future rival in the 2024 election, so that they could look.
Yep, that is not okay. That is not cool. That is not allowable. And then all the continued lawfare afterward, after all the theft, after all the spying. The attempts to stage a coup of the sitting president over and over, multiple impeachment attempts, assassination attempts, lawfare attempts. Everything imaginable.
For dirt, for possible crimes. There's a lot more coming in. There's a lot of other evidence as well of the White House involvement. Remember, 2 years ago, we were the first news agency, right here, Real America's Voice, Just the News, to report that a White House counsel was directly involved with this investigation. Now, more details, including imagine this, you're the Democrat president and you go get the old Republican's phone for your prior president and send it to the Justice Department. That's what Senators Johnson and Grassley were able to confirm tonight. It's in that letter. Keep an eye on justthenews.com. We're going to get you up to speed on that all throughout the night. A lot more development.
It's pretty crazy, but these Democrats, these deep state Democrats, thought they were invincible. Yeah, they call it Arctic Frost investigation, sweeping interviews to advance anti-Trump Arctic Frost investigation. Arctic Frost, the operation was named after an orange because Trump is an orange man bad. Get it? Good. All right, let's get into the stories. We touched on this yesterday, didn't play it, but let's hear from this now.
In other news, the fake news media has picked a fight with the wrong person. CNN got itself in quite the feud with the director of national intelligence. And what did Chuck Schumer say?
6 ways from Sunday?
They got 6 ways from Sunday. Well, Tulsi Gabbard did it the right way. Her lawyers sent a cease and desist letter last week to CNN threatening to sue them if they published what her lawyers are calling a defamatory piece against her, which seems to be incorrect according to her. So what did CNN do? They published the story anyway. The piece accuses Gabbard of voter fraud, claiming that she voted in Hawaii during the 2024 election while having declared a homestead in Texas. Now, her lawyers argue that she lives and pays taxes in Hawaii, which should be really easy to prove, and that the Texas homestead declaration was only for security reasons to protect her and her family from threats, which makes a ton of sense, folks. Not only did CNN ignore the facts, shocker, CNN, right? They published the story behind a paywall, making it only for subscribers, which is like 11 people who pay $4. Who would pay $4 a month for CNN's behind the paywall look? I mean, these guys are not that star-spangled awesome. The man with the exclusive on that letter, Brent Scher, managing editor of the Daily Wire. This is like CNN, they do it to themselves.
Yeah, Carl, what's funny here, and thanks for having me on, is this is probably the first voter fraud story that CNN's covered in years.
That's a good point.
Yeah, CNN's ignored all of the problems in 2020, didn't they?
Literally 2 years ago, they actually had a headline that said voter fraud doesn't exist, part infinity. So what actually happened here, and we actually had the story before CNN did because we got in touch with Tulsi Gabbard's team at DNI and also with the lawyers, is she purchased a house in 2024 in Texas, in mainland United States, because as you know, Hawaii is 10 hours away from Washington, D.C., where now much of her work is. So she obviously needs a homeland address. And then CNN all of a sudden cares about the fact that she may have voted in Hawaii, where she was raised, not born, but lived almost her entire life.
And probably
where she served in Congress, where she still considers herself a resident. They're upset that she should have voted in Texas because she declared that her homestead. Now, like you said, the reason she declared it her homestead is because a lot of people dislike Tulsi Gabbard, and it is not good for a public figure like that to have a public address. And the only way to protect that information in Texas is to declare it your homestead. So on the advice of local officials, they told her to do that.
Declare it your homestead. I guess there's a privacy that goes along with that. I'm going to need a little bit of a further explanation on declaring something your homestead, about why it keeps you private and where you can only vote one place. But can you pick that place, or you have to pre-register which place? There's a lot of fine print here that I'm not super up to date on.
That obviously doesn't mean that she considers herself a Texas resident, and she's still voting in Hawaii and considers herself a Hawaiian.
Right.
I mean, also interesting is it's more beneficial to be a Texas resident. In Texas, you pay 0 income tax. In Hawaii, you pay the highest income tax in the country. I think the state income tax is around 11%.
So crazy.
I mean, this is just a lot of anger from CNN because Tulsi Gabbard is in the Trump administration, not because they're actually scandalized about where she thinks she lives.
I hope she sues the pants off of these people and they just go under.
All right. But Tulsi's out there. Why do they drop in that? Because listen to her on the warpath. It's about time we got to the bottom of this.
The very dangerous and negative consequences of that. I've got a long list of things that we're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this. Election integrity being one of them. We have...
All right, pause on election integrity. However you're watching us right now, hit like, hit subscribe, click the notification bell. If you're watching on Facebook or something, hit the thumbs up and the hearts. Definitely link up with us on X. And if you could, drop a comment. If we start getting the comments flowing, we might put them up on the screen. First question of the day, what's your name and where you watching from? Or your initials and where you watching from? Check in, say hello. Give us any thoughts on any of the stories that we're talking about. We love getting your participation. Back to Tulsi.
Evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast.
They are very vulnerable. Was it proven what happened in 2020? No. We're taking efforts to make sure that that never happens again. We need full transparency, and if the full forensic audits are proprietary or complicated, or if we don't have access to it, and if your machine that's not supposed to be connected to the internet can have internet connected to it, and it can be engaged remotely, I mean, what are we even talking about? Why are we coming within 100 feet of any voting machine, by any manufacturer? I can have a preference to paper ballots, and I don't have to prove a goddamn thing to you. Fox fired Tucker Carlson, right? Wasn't that for covering the election, covering the results? No, you can't make an accusation against any particular company without evidence. But I think the argument in the lawsuit was that the Fox people didn't actually believe the story they were reporting on. Otherwise, they would have been covered. That's the easiest thing in the world to defend. You just, who knows? I know that my audience thinks that. You leave it at that. Maybe personally, I might not be convinced. All right, but maybe I know that my audience wants to hear that perspective, and I'm giving them what they want. Fox threw Tucker out. The number one guy on TV, they just threw him out as part of that deal. I wonder if they've ever even collected on that. But no, Mitch Hedberg has a joke where he talks about Pepperidge Farm. That bread's so fancy, you unwrap it, and it still ain't open. I do not need any extra steps between me and toast. If I put a vote, if I fill out a form and cast my vote, I don't need any extra steps. Just count it and put it in a box for audit ability. You get 1,000 per box, you shrink wrap it, you seal it up with the hologram, and it's labeled, it's dated, it's got the fingerprints of the two people that signed off on it. It's packed and stacked. Perfect. I don't need to send extra steps. Great, now I got this piece of paper. Now let's send it to a computer, and let's make sure that computer may or may not be connected online, and let's make sure that computer couldn't just flip-flop a vote tally. How would we ever know? I don't need any extra steps. Just cast a vote and count it. It's not a knock on any one of the companies with massive potential vulnerabilities. It's just a kind of a why bother type thing.
Which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
So, Tulsi's out there talking about voters, vulnerabilities of the voter system, and so CNN goes on the attack. It is like clockwork, people. Clockwork. All right. Representative Mike Lawler talking about DOGE. How do you feel? Agree or disagree?
For some other town halls. Today, Elon Musk told the president's cabinet at a cabinet meeting that instead of $1 trillion in savings, they expect to get about $150 billion in savings. What would you say to Americans or your constituents who might be worried that he gave them false hope of what he could achieve?
Well, the question is over the course of a 10-year window, right? Over the next 10 years, over the next 10 years, we're projected to spend $86 trillion in spending. The budget resolution that was passed talks about potentially $1.5 trillion in savings over 10 years. That amounts to about $150 billion on an annual basis. Now, he's talking about the work that he is doing and the Department of Government Efficiency is doing, which is basically a turbocharged forensic audit through every department and agency, which hasn't been done in years.
Imagine the dereliction of duty involved with not even running an audit in years. That is madness, except when you realize that when you get there, you got the old gargoyles like the Chuck Schumer. Hey, come on, let's have dinner real quick. See, here's the thing. We're robbing everything blind. We're robbing everything blind. So, how about 6 ways from Sunday? You join us or we bust you. We'll get you thrown out of here. It's that easy, kids. So shut up and just take this free money. We'll tell you which stocks to pick. You'll be filthy rich, see? You'll be filthy rich. But we got to leave a big bloated government so we can steal enough. Just a little bit here and there. We skim it and we get it back to our families. We get it back to our supporters who are going to donate it back to our campaigns. That'll donate it back into stacks of cash. See, we got a whole scheme. That's why they hate Trump, because they ain't Trump. Trump doesn't need that dirty, greasy money. He's got plenty of money. That's why he's a threat. He's a threat to your democracy. Shut up. He's far right. There's no such thing as far right. And I say there's no such thing as far right because you've overused the term so much, I don't even acknowledge it anymore. Oh, he's full of chaos. Yeah. You know what would frighten the hell out of me? Understanding how corrupt our government is and not having chaos. That would frighten the shit out of me. I love the chaos because we're running a full turbocharged forensic audit. A full forensic audit, the same one I was saying, it was difficult or impossible to get forensic audits of those 7 fraud states, swing states in 2020. The full forensic audit, people. We got to get to the bottom of what's going on.
And the fact is that we have a federal government that spends $7 trillion.
Imagine that asshole question here. Are you worried Elon Musk gave Americans false hope? Shut up, CNN. Fuck you and fuck that question. Do you know how appreciative I am that we're running a full forensic audit of every aspect of the federal government? Look at this look at this shit question here. Are you worried Elon Musk gave Americans false hope? The discovery of U.S. aid money laundering allegedly to the Democrat Party. That might be one of the most important things any government has done in the history of government. Because our own taxes were being used against us to destroy this nation by traitors. And now we see it. And now we've stopped it. It's not the only places we found it and stopped it. But it's a start. So, are you worried Elon gave Americans false hope? Oh, I hate CNN so much.
On an annual basis, including $1 trillion to pay our interest on our debt. We have $36 trillion in debt. This is not sustainable, folks. It's not sustainable. Yes, we need to dot I's, we need to cross T's, we need to make sure that when decisions are made, They are made with all the information necessary and available. And I've already pushed back on decisions that were made that would have an impact. For instance, the World Trade Center Health Fund. Decisions were made to cut certain staff. I, Andrew Garbarino, Nick LaLota, Nicole Maliotakis, we immediately reached out to the administration and they fixed the issue. And we make sure that our 9/11 first responders are protected. But this is a much broader conversation. And I know you want to have Derek come in, but Congress has a role. And the role is in two forms. Number one is to provide oversight and have committees do hearings. I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee. We've already done multiple hearings with respect to USAID. Secondarily,
USAID, huge one. Mike Lawler, Republican, New York.
Congress will play a role with a rescissions package. We will make a determination based on the recommendations from Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency and all of the secretaries, whether or not the recommendations they're making should be rescinded.
Oversight.
Yeah, I am so thankful that we're running a turbocharged forensic audit of the entire government. Knowingly, Brian Cates writes, not a one of them was fooled. They all knew. Let me make sure I'm, yes, you can see it. Okay. Not a one of them was fooled. They all knew. They all knew exactly where the Steele dossier hoax came from, who ordered it, created, who paid for its creation. There's no mystery here. There's no suspense. This is not a whodunit where we're trying to figure out if it was Professor McGonagall in the library with the candlestick. The evidence has already been collected, put into legal filings, much of it already spelled out in special counsel and inspector general reports. All this declassification of the remaining Spygate documents is emphasizing yet again what they did knowingly. When Trump gives the order for the indictments to be unsealed and the prosecutions to begin, everything has been made ready. The T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. No fancy lawyering or invocation of statute of limitations is going to save any of the guilty when it comes to classified materials, leaking, stealing, selling, exposing, destroying such class material, especially SAP material, look that one up if you don't know what it means, is a federal felony with no statute of limitations. Doesn't matter if you leaked, sold, exposed that stuff in 2001 or 2021. Doesn't matter. If you stole class material to leak it to our enemies in exchange for bribes, that's called espionage. Go look up what the penalties are for that, as well as the statute of limitations on it. And if you leaked, stole, sold class materials to our enemies who have attacked and continue to attack our country in acts of war, that makes you a traitor. It also opens you up to being tried by a military tribunal and not in the regular civilian court system, since you involved foreign powers who have been in a silent, undeclared war with the United States for some time now. When can't you have a Congress declare a war? When does the president have to do it by himself? When almost half your U.S. Congress is compromised by foreign powers, and I don't just mean China. Trump told you many times he was and is a wartime president. I know some of you didn't believe him. He was waxing rhapsodic, exaggerating for effect. Not really. Susan Rice, Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Biden, Obama, these people should be going down. All right, Luke Rudowski wants us to see this one. So let's take a look. Let's go side by side, I think. Yep, there we go. And I'll zoom in on it. Luke wants someone to send this clip to Donald Trump, President Trump, ASAP. Let's take a listen. Why is it relevant?
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. And I think that people sitting right next door in Iran, young people, and many others will say, the time of such regimes, of such despots, is gone. There is a new age, something new is happening.
And that is speculation on your part, or you have some evidence to that effect?
You know, I was asked the same question in 1986. I had written a book in which I had said that the way to deal with terrorist regimes, well, with terror, was to deal with the terrorist regimes. And the way to deal with the terrorist regimes, among other things, was to apply military force against them.
The way we did in Afghanistan.
The way, for example, I want to answer your question.
Well, I guess I'm running out of time, so I quickly was trying to get there. We've done, I think, what you proposed in Afghanistan, yet I haven't seen that sort of neighborhood effect.
Well, I think there's been an enormous effect. The effect was, we were told that there would be a contrary effect. First of all, people said that there would be tens of thousands of people streaming into Afghanistan, zealots who would be outraged by America's action, and this would produce a counter-reaction in the Arab world.
But I think you're now saying that when you take an action like we did in Afghanistan, we're going to see all the other countries just fold.
No, what we saw is something else. First of all, we saw everybody streaming out of Afghanistan. The second thing we saw is all the Arab countries and many Muslim countries trying to side with America, trying to be okay with America. The application of power is the most important thing in winning the war on terrorism. If I had to say, what are the three principles of winning the war on terror? It's like, what are the three principles of real estate, the three L's, location, location, location? The three principles of winning the war on terror are the three W's, winning, winning, and winning. The more victories you amass, the easier the next victory becomes. The first victory in Afghanistan makes the second victory in Iraq that much easier. The second victory in Iraq will make the third victory that much easier too, but it may change the nature of achieving that victory. It may be possible to have implosions taking place. I don't guarantee it, Mr. Turney, but I think it makes it more likely.
And Luke Radowski is saying, highlighting the part where he says, if you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. And Luke says, yeah, that really didn't work out, did it? So something to consider. Roger Stone here writes that New York Attorney General Letitia James says in her financial disclosures that she owns 2 homes in Virginia. I have just learned that she has 2 additional homes in Virginia, which are not publicly disclosed as required by law. And the mortgage on both of them says they're owner occupied. Stand by for updates. Oh, Letitia James. She needs to be held accountable for her role in the lawfare campaign against President Trump. Liz Churchill reminding us that Mike Lindell stated after the 2020 election that the voting machines were compromised. He was sued and raided by the FBI and vilified by the lying legacy media. Today, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard announced there's evidence that voting machines can be hacked that can manipulate the results. So he's been vindicated. Remember that and maybe go buy some MyPillow stuff if you agree. Roseanne listens to Tulsi Gabbard discussing evidence of massive vulnerabilities on voting machines that allow hackers to flip votes. And Roseanne Barr says, I was told by the people who cheated that there was no evidence of this. Babylon B reporting on a white liberal shocked as a black man gets an ID.
We're here on the scene in this Republican county where African Americans are being oppressed by horrific new voter laws, forcing them to acquire a legal ID to vote. Excuse me, sir. You're unable to acquire an ID, are you not?
Actually, I just renewed my ID. It's pretty easy, actually.
There you have it. This poor black man has been disenfranchised by racist voter ID laws because he's too ignorant. I'm sorry. Ignorant means stupid. Too ignorant to acquire a voter ID. Absolutely tragic. The new laws forbid giving out food, water.
I'm sorry. Ignorant means stupid. That was good comedy writing. That was nice.
Franchised by racist voter ID laws because he's too ignorant. I'm sorry. Ignorant means stupid. Too ignorant to acquire.
I thought he was going to say sorry for calling him ignorant. It was a nice little misdirect.
A voter ID. Absolutely tragic. The new laws forbid giving out food, water, and free cash to voters in line. How will black people figure out how to drink water in line to vote? That's illegal. Thanks to Republicans. Where did you get that anyway?
I brought it.
You didn't bring that. You're too underprivileged. That means poor. I'm sorry the evil conservatives are trying to figuratively smack the water out of your hands.
You literally just did that.
Figuratively, literally.
Like, who are you? You know what? Forget it. It's my time to vote. Just chill out.
We just witnessed a hate crime. A thirsty, dehydrated hate crime. Our thoughts and prayers to his family. Black people are oppressed. How oppressed? Republicans want to stop us from feeding them. Well, you can't stop this progressive, you racists.
You're the racist.
Here comes the airplane.
How did you get into my house?
I won't let these alt-right lunatics starve you. Eat it.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if I fully finished the point I was making earlier about the far right and how there is no far right. It's just because everything's normal is called far right. I don't acknowledge the term anymore. Like, that was kind of the point I was getting to there. He was talking about alt-right, and yeah, there's alt-left, the far left. The far left has seized control of the Democrat Party. They have gone off the reservation. Anyway, I'm just really happy to see Babylon Bee doing videos.
I won't let these alt-right lunatics starve you. Eat it.
Smoking guillotines, banana shaped is a for woman.
What the? You don't know how to use this remote. Republicans won't pass laws to teach you.
Where?
What?
Oh, he's gone.
Black people are incapable of doing anything white people can do on their own.
That really is how ridiculous that Democrat argument sounds. Claiming that black people can't do the same things that everybody can do. You don't hate those Democrat politicians nearly enough. It's so absurd when you do it like this. And you kind of exaggerate it a little bit, and you're like, oh, I guess they are just kind of saying that that's the Democrat message, that you can't do what everybody else can do. Of course you can. Everybody can. But they push weirdness.
Black people are incapable of doing anything white people can do on their own. Progressive policies are the only solution. You can't escape them. Without them, you literally can't do anything! Another black man flees in terror from the bigotry of Republicans. After the break, we'll talk to an expert on racism who agrees with us on the capabilities of black people.
Love the Babylon Bee. Such a fan. Hello, David Ban. How are you, sir? Good to have you. Look at this guy without sound and tell me he's not a supervillain. He's a supervillain, right? Peter Strzok. I didn't know you had to ignore the Z. Strazak? Peter Strzok. Anyway, C3 here says, with the declassification of Crossfire Hurricane, here's a video of Peter Strzok testifying under oath. Just look at his face. Testifying under oath that the entire 7th floor brass at the FBI is guilty of sedition, implicating all of them. A coup. From Comey to McCabe, they have to go to prison. So here, let's hear this one more time.
At every step, at every investigative decision, there are multiple layers of people above me, the assistant director, executive assistant director, deputy director, and director of the FBI, and multiple layers of people below me, section chiefs, supervisors, unit chiefs, case agents, and analysts, all of whom were involved in all of these decisions.
There you go. Sedition, a seditious coup for all of them, from Comey to McCabe, from Crossfire Hurricane. Go get them already. David, do you agree? It's just like, come on, people. Let's get the let's get it started. Let's get the there we go. We'll do it this way. Let's get the indictments rolling. It's time. All right, we continue. This is Homeland Security Chairman Mark Green Hey, how prepared are you? How ready are you if things get weird? We said prepare to defend America. Hashtag TNAM preparedness. Take a listen.
Secretary Mayorkas has put the national security of the United States at risk. Terrorists, suspected terrorists, and enemies of our nation have flooded across our borders. We've previously reported the numbers for the terrorists and the terrorist watch list. But I want to break a little news today. You thought the Chinese spy balloon was bad. This chart here depicts a massive surge in Chinese nationals, many of whom are military-age men, many with known ties to the PLA, ties to the CCP, who have crossed our southern border and just been released by Secretary Mayorkas into the United States.
Mayorkas needs to be the first one. He needs to be in the first batch. Pure treason. That Mayorkas, we know exactly what he's up to.
We have no idea who these people are. And it's very likely...
And hold on, how many of them? Let's rewind it.
Many of whom are military... This chart here depicts a massive surge in Chinese nationals, many of whom are military-age men, many with known ties to the PLA, ties to the CCP, who have crossed our southern border and just been released by Secretary Mayorkas into the United States.
Imagine that.
We have no idea.
Why would you just release an invading army into your own country unless you were organizing the overthrow of said country?
Into the United States. We have no idea who these people are. And it's very likely, using Russia's template of sending military personnel into into Ukraine, China is doing the same in the United States. We already know that there's a Chinese listening station just across 90 miles of ocean in Cuba. That frustrates the American people, just like the spy balloon frustrated Americans. How about 10,000 Chinese nationals illegally crossing into the United States being released into our country this fiscal year? Today's hearing will begin the process of digging into all of the details, the cause and effect of Alejandro Mayorkas' dereliction of duty. I hope the American people will listen intently. I hope the press will report this honestly.
Good luck with that.
I hope the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief charged with the security and protection of this country, will listen. He can't possibly know of all of these failures of Mayorkas and have not fired him already.
Go after Mayorkas immediately and prepare to defend America, people. Okay. Readers say that this is misleading. Let's talk about this. Justice Department announced 14 alleged members of a prolific alien smuggling organization were charged for their roles smuggling aliens from South to Central America. South and Central America into the United States via the southern border. None were government employees. Okay, so maybe how it was presented that 22 members of our Justice Department, none of them were government employees, but 14 alleged members of a prolific alien smuggling org charged for roles of smuggling South and Central Americans into the U.S. through the southern border. I want to see these trials. I want to see these indictments across the board. Go back and get all of them. Stop this right now. If you want to come in here, that's a privilege. Get in line, do it the right way. Don't be a menace to your neighborhood. Don't be a burden on society. Be a net positive. Keep your nose clean. Learn the language. Learn our Bill of Rights. Commit to defending our Second Amendment rights, our First Amendment rights. Learn about our country. Say, I'd like to be on that team. You don't show up here and bring all of your country in and try to live in an enclave with your own Italian flags and your own, we don't need a little Italy. We need an America, and that's through assimilation. Over the process of 10 or 15 years, if you're going to, you should be able to work here if you walk through the front door, not if you snuck in through the back. You go to the back of the line if you snuck in. And if you don't go when you're asked to go, which is right now, then you don't get to come back. So that's the encouragement to like, all right, get the CBP One app or go do the thing and get the number or go figure it out. This country has been horribly mismanaged for so many years. We want the most awesome Americans here. And you can join Team America. But there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And just like almost everything, the Democrats do things the wrong way. So sorry you listened to them, but you shouldn't have. You think there may be over 500,000 sealed indictments? 500,000 sealed indictments, David? In which areas? That's a lot of, there's only, 50 top government officials from Fauci to Biden, Clinton, Kerry, Bush, Obama, Clinton, Comey, McCabe, Garland, Holder. Go through the list. There's 50 top government officials. But once you get out of the top 50 positions that have cycled through in the last 20 years, how do you get 500,000 more? What would they all be for? Yeah, people in the past would assimilate into America with no problem. Yeah, I don't know. This is the Obama doctrine of flooding each sovereign nation with non-citizens to forever change the voting demographic and conquer the nation. Resist. This is not cool. This is not okay. And if people want to show up here and if they want to work, get in line, do the 10, 15-year thing, stay out of trouble, learn the language, pay taxes, don't get a social security number, you don't vote. You can be here, you can work here, and if you're on the right path and you're doing well, you can stay. But there needs to be a system to chart and track that. And it's not going to be something where you bring your old customs and your own ideologies of where you just fled. We want you to become a member of this team by a checklist. Commit to freedom of speech, freedom of religion. And by the way, if your personal beliefs mean that people who leave your religious faith get stoned, well, that's not compatible with the United States. The United States says we have freedom of religion. And so if you don't hold those values, you don't get to be here. You don't get to stay here. You're not going to come in here and change what we are by putting in micro representatives across the country, like the squad. They're going to take over and try to change what it fundamentally means to be American. No thanks. It is a worldwide situation. Look at Ireland, look at Sweden, look at Germany, look at Italy, look at France, look at the UK. And it's a massive majority of military-aged men. Almost as if it was part of a plan to overthrow this country. All right. Tim Walls, what is this? The disrespected trucker shares and says, this is what happens when you speak to a crowd that's not paid to be there.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Well,
you're a coward.
Welcome to the Capitol. It's great that you're all... Sir, you're welcome to come. Let me finish. Let me finish and vote.
Hey, sir, he doesn't have fucking votes, sir. Shut your fucking mouth.
Oh, hey, there's some passion in the building. which is a good thing.
Reaction to some of the boos that you got out there and some of the heckling.
Yeah, and some of the thank you, and this guy wanted to go brawl, help me brawl the guy. Look, that's what they're going to do. These folks come here, they're going to have to face the reality. Some of these guys voted for what's happening at the VA and they don't like it. Some of them come up here and are saying they're supporting folks who are voting against this. The House budget is grossly underfunded in veterans and it has to change.
Tim Walz, meet Tim Walz, one of the leaders of the Democrat Party. Good luck with that. All right. Tulsi Gabbard, a.k.a. Storm. Is that the character that she looks like? Tulsi Gabbard told Fox News that there were hundreds and thousands of unscanned JFK, MLK, and RFK documents that were hidden in the National Archives in the hopes that they'd never be found. Tulsi has been activated, says American Archer. Let's take a listen.
They have been hidden with the hopes that no one would ever find them. Related to the Senator Kennedy assassination files, the MLK assassination files, unlike the JFK files, these have never been scanned. They've never been digitized. These are pieces of paper, hundreds and thousands of them, that have been sitting in boxes at the National Archives and Records Agency. So we've had over 100 people manually scanning every one of these pages, preparing them to fulfill what President Trump promised the American people: maximum transparency and the release of these files that have never been released publicly before. We're not stopping there. We know that not all of those documents have been turned over to the National Archives Agency.
And of course, we know that not all of them will be particularly relevant, but...
And so we've got teams out there going and searching in warehouses at the FBI, at the CIA, and other places to uncover related documents that for one reason or another were never turned over before. So President Trump is very serious, obviously, about working to achieve that maximum transparency. That transparency will allow us to bring about accountability around the Russia collusion hoax, for example.
Yeah, that Russian collusion hoax. They have been hell-bent on getting us into war with Russia, and it's just been pin the tail on Russia for 20 years with these idiots. Hell-bent on these strategies, these long-term war plans.
Example, the more we dig, the more we find. The extent of the seriousness and the intent of that whole operation was very consistent with what we found in Stalin's operation. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. It is disheartening to see these things, but it also provides us the opportunity to tell the American people the truth about what's been going on so that we can make sure we try to bring about an end to it and bring about that accountability.
So, show me the man and I'll show you the crime.
And the intent ability around the Russia collusion hoax, for example. The more we dig, the more we find. The extent of the seriousness and the intent of that whole operation was very consistent with what we found in Stalin's operation. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime.
Basically, it is pinpoint the person who will be the target of our attack, and we will destroy them. And most people don't have the resources like President Trump to defend themselves. So they usually get taken out, or they usually bail, or they usually don't go to bat. They don't go up against the people who are doing the threats and the blackmail and the bribing because they can't survive the attacks. And so they're compromised. And that's how they've been getting away with this shit for so long in America. That's what's different about this. What's different is the ability to stand up for yourself, the ability to not buckle under the pressure that everybody else is under. And when you see people that you thought were good acting really weird, come on, you know the difference. Not to jump out of politics and into entertainment right off the bat, and not to say that this is like the worst example of it, but Bill Burr. What in the world happened going on The View to jump in with this deep state Democrat, AstroTurf, anti-Elon, anti-Tesla bullshit? Did you go on Jimmy Kimmel too? ABC, ESPN, Disney, because you're working on, what was it you were in? Was it The Mandalorian? Bill Burr kind of goes at a lot of people. But mainly it wasn't even funny. If you had a funny take, I'll take a funny take. I would ask, maybe in the grand scheme of things, since we're doing so many good things to stop waste, fraud, and abuse, if you're going to attack one side, you better do both. I know it's just comedy, but still, but it was mean-spirited. It wasn't funny. It didn't feel authentic to Bill Burr's brand. So I'm wondering who's in his ear. Some people say it's his wife. I don't know. You've heard him talk about it, and people talk about him talking about it. I guess she's I don't know her and I don't know their situation, but what I've heard other people say is that she is a black woman married to Bill Burr, a very pale, bald, Irish comedian. Is he Irish? Is that his deal? Boston? And that she is militant progressive, militant deep state, militant Democrat, whatever you want to call that hardcore, far left fringe that's so popular in the party they overthrew, they're getting about 21% approval. That's how fringe, like 21% Democrat Party fringe, and that it's impacting him. And I was like, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I just don't see it. I feel like what I'm seeing is the ABC, ESPN, Disney social justice warrior campaign. Here's the script, go out and do it. You want to stay in the Disney franchise, right? Well, ABC, ESPN, Disney, we look after people that look after us. So if, you're out there, tell a few jokes and get that out, we'd appreciate it. Jimmy Kimmel, like, yeah, buddy, dude, it's been great. Just read the script and you'll be filthy freaking rich. It's like, I haven't found Jimmy Kimmel to be funny in 15 years. Man, has it been vitriolic and unfunny and bitter, uninspired. Just an attack arm. Like Stephen Colbert. God, that guy used to be funny when he was pretending to be like a Bill O'Reilly kind of character. But good grief, it's been unwatchable for years. So anyway. I don't know much about this, so let's take a listen. This video is claiming Chester Bennington's oldest son, Jamie, this is Isaac's army, now believes that his father was offed after years of being convinced that he did it to himself, and he vows to continue to investigate until the truth prevails. They said he was working on something. So here, let me look this up before I play it. Let me make sure this checks out at least. Chester Bennington, oldest son. Oh man, am I really going to go down this rabbit hole right now? Probably not. Because then they say that these two look so similar. And when the Podesta emails came out and Bennington was offed and that Italian food shaped in a circle, except when it's in a triangle that you can't talk about. And that's weird if you can't talk about something. I feel like you're sort of giving yourself away there if you're trying to ban it. Anyway, this video is going around, says this is Chester's oldest son, Jamie. Let's listen.
I am the firstborn son of Chester Bennington, and over the last 6 years, I've gone from a firm supporter of his suicide to someone who's absolutely convinced that he did not take his own life, and that instead he was killed by something or someone for some purpose. And I will be investigating that until I find the truth.
And also, like, why does Kanye get to say my dad was killed, but I don't?
Chester left for California in 2013. How about a year later, he had been recruited successfully by the district attorney's office of Orange County and pioneering
an anti-human trafficking task force effort.
I am the firstborn son.
So this story is going around. There's stories about Anthony Bourdain, Chris Cornell. So take a listen. All right, here's Matt Gaetz calling out Nancy Pelosi for insider trading. Will Congress get busted in their money laundering? Of course, these are allegations.
Tim Cook reportedly called Pelosi to deliver a warning about Congress's antitrust bills.
Without objection.
So maybe it's the lobbyists, maybe it's the power of these very powerful CEOs making personal calls, but it could even be something more sinister. Mr. Chairman, I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record a Fortune.com piece entitled Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband cashed in on big tech just as Congress was set to pounce.
Without objection.
And in that article, there's discussion of the spouse of the Speaker of the House making a $6 million call on stocks that netted $5.3 million. Tim Cook reportedly called Pelosi to.
So is that where it would start? Hakeem Jeffries said today Democrats want to start prosecuting politicians for insider trading. Apple CEO Tim Cook trading with him on a $6 million stock sale. Pelosi got 5.3, according to these allegations. Dan Raisin Kane has been confirmed in the Senate as the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Raisin Kane. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has announced it. I'm not super familiar with Dan Kane. I know his nickname. I know he's been like in the orbit for a while. That'll be a question of the day. Do you have any thoughts on Dan Kane? Are you familiar with Dan Kane with the Joint Chiefs of Staff? So there you have it. Congratulations. Readers have added context to this. You'll see the flight pattern of this plane up here, drawing something that looks like a 66666666666, or a clover leaf pattern, just floating around in circles, really. It suffered some mechanical issues at takeoff. Boca Raton Assistant Fire Chief Michael LaSalle said the unusual flight pattern was the aircraft trying to return to BCT shortly after takeoff. You saw this story. Talk about how these politicians are getting filthy rich. Let's listen to Megyn Kelly here talk about BHO.
How much is enough money, according to the Obamas? 70 million? Because public reports estimate that is their net worth, parlayed on the back of Barack Obama's 14 years of holding political office. He did not spend 50 years in government service. He did a stint in the Illinois State Senate. He did a couple years in the U.S. Senate before he ran for office and won. All right. And then he did 2 terms as president. And off of that, he's made himself over $100 million, almost $100 million, probably over, to be honest. We don't know all of the earnings. The Obamas reportedly own 4 luxury properties. A home in Martha's Vineyard, estimated to be worth some $20 million.
There you go.
In addition to properties in Washington, D.C., reportedly bought for $8.1 million. A beachfront home in Hawaii, reportedly bought for $8.7 million.
That's a great gig if you can get it.
And a home bought in Chicago for $1.65 million. Is that more than you need, Mr. Obama? Mrs. Obama? How much is enough?
Yeah. 14 years in public office, modest government roles, $100 million portfolio. Okay. Check out our show from yesterday. Voter machine vulnerabilities exposed by DNI Tulsi Gabbard and illegals are returning home. Check out that show. DOGE here says California. Hold on. Let me go to this one first. Initial survey of unemployment insurance claims since 2020 revealed 24,000 people over 115 years old claimed 59 million benefits. 28,000 people between 1 and 5 claimed 254 million in benefits. And 9.7 thousand people with birth dates over 15 years in the future claimed 69 million in benefits. In one case, someone with a birthday in 2154 claimed $41,000. These are the claims. The follow-up says California, New York, and Massachusetts accounted for most of these improper claims, totaling $305 million in unemployment benefits. Wow. 3 of the states that have been completely taken over in a blue coup. Blue coup. Ooh, that's a great phrase. Blue coup. Mass, C-A-N-Y. Because, look, all you got to do is take over a couple of big cities, and if you can run the ballot machines strong enough, if you can pepper in enough illegal aliens to get enough Social Security numbers, and you can kind of finagle the process a little bit, you can be in power forever, right? You never have to actually have good ideas or success or a track record or reliability or trustworthiness or results. You just have to be a Democrat in one of 20 cities and you'll never get boosted out of there. But wow, $305 million in fraudulent unemployment benefits. California, New York, Massachusetts, 3 of the places that have been taken over in a blue coup. Wow. Additionally, California accounted for 68% of the unemployment benefits paid to parolees identified by CBP on the terrorist watch list or with criminal records. Okay, so the CEO of rail infrastructure at Siemens Mobility, Agustin Escobar, top executive in one of the subsidiaries of Siemens. Do you see this blade spinning in the air? This was the helicopter crash. So it wasn't the CEO as reported, but there's the helicopter going down. Okay, that's the craziest video I've seen of this. But then here's the one I saw initially with the blades spinning in the air. Well after. Here, let's get the sound of the beginning. There it is. Quite an impact. So keep your eyes peeled on these planes falling out of the sky. I think this is they said that Ryan Ruth, one of the Trump assassins, was trying to get rocket propelled grenades or surface-to-air missile systems to take out Trump's plane. And we shared a report a week ago that said a lot of the Ukrainian weapons, and Ryan Ruth has the Ukrainian connection, so it seems like Ukraine tried to take out President Trump. Just think about that for a second, okay? I saw another report that just on the Mexico side of our southern border, those weapon systems that were supposed to go to Ukraine have ended up in the cartel hands aimed at America. Almost as if America is getting primed for an invasion. Luckily, Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump and Tulsi Gabbard and Marco Rubio and some other people are involved now, and it seems like finally we're not participating in that. We're pushing that back with the militarized zone on our southern border, for example. All right. Luke Radowski followed up on what he was saying. He said they knowingly lied then and they are lying now. Israel knew Iraq had no weapons of mass destruction, says MP, according to The Guardian. So Luke is on one. James O'Keefe saying this is insane. Thousands and thousands of DMs over a couple of hours telling me not to back down. There's literally a patriot army of citizen journalists out there. What story is this in regards to? What's the latest one? Maybe it was this one. The Florida Tech president admitted to tweaking the language of DEI courses to bypass DeSantis-backed DEI ban and secure $7 million in taxpayer funding. Then O'Keefe is escorted off campus after a heated confrontation.
Changing. I have it on video on my iPad.
So I was illegally recorded. Nobody told me this.
I don't think it's illegal. There's a First Amendment issue here.
I'm going to have you talk to my attorney.
Your attorney?
Yeah.
Is he here?
Absolutely.
On the eve of publishing this recording, we were sent a cease and desist.
Okay. So where's the heated confrontation? Laughing with cops there. But yeah, essentially what they're getting at is that they don't think the Trump administration is sophisticated enough to know any better about the DEI bans, the blatant racist and misandrist. I think is that the word for being against men? Yeah, you're not supposed to be acting the way the DEI is acting to negatively, disproportionately, unfairly, selectively editing some people's ability to succeed in life. And they said, well, if we just change the name, then we'll get away with it. All right, well, we got to get more savvy about tracking it down then. Stephen Miller talking about the Biden administration. What were they doing to sabotage America? And for what purpose?
Register to vote.
The blue coup. I think it's for the blue coup.
And it was by design. That's their belief.
It is absolutely by design. You've summarized it for your audience perfectly, Sean. This was not a loophole. The Biden administration, Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, devised a scheme to fly illegal aliens into the country and then to escort them en masse across the border by the millions, and to give them something known as parole, which gives them a work permit, which gives them a social security number, which gives them access to the voting booth. This was the plan all along.
They should never have access to a social security number or a voting booth. What the hell is that all about? And if they're supposed to be a number, if you're going to be a known, you walked through the front door, the port of entry, you've whatever, and you're on the path that's straight and narrow, and you'd like to have temporary work privileges, and you'll pay taxes on it, and you're not going to be eligible for any benefit systems, and you're going to make your way. You do not get a social security number. That needs to be only for citizens. I was confused when I looked up and saw that there were other scenarios where people get social security numbers, and I disagree. That cannot be. SSN needs to be for the citizens. And if there's another number for something, call it something else. It has to be totally different and completely disconnected from voting.
Give them something known as parole, which gives them a work permit, which gives them a social security number, which gives them access to the voting booth. This was the plan all along, to get them here illegally so they can get free government benefits, get hooked to welfare, and be able to participate in American elections.
No, there should be no welfare. There should be a strict prohibition on welfare. You cannot be a drain on society. If you want to come here and become a net positive to the country, fine. And no voting.
This was an attack on democracy by the Democrat Party. It's the same attack that we see.
And by the way, isn't that interesting? Democrats always yell the loudest about the things that they are doing. They are attacking democracy by rigging the system to get non-citizens to tilt the scales in the 7 fraud states, or 50 states.
This was an attack on democracy by the Democrat Party. It's the same attack that we see, Sean, when you have California, a sanctuary state, that is refusing to turn over even illegal alien criminals and gang members to ICE. So these are illegal aliens in California who have been arrested by California police, by California law enforcement, for serious crimes, for crimes against children, for felonies, for crimes that threaten public safety, and they are refusing to hand these criminal illegal aliens over to ICE. Instead, they're freeing them back into the cities to offend and offend again.
And that was my experience in Los Angeles. It was 5 people causing 95% of the problems, and they kept arresting them and just letting them out again. They wouldn't just keep them away. And so they kept causing 95% of the problems.
By any definition, What California is doing is criminal. It is a violation of our laws. It is one of the most heinous things that I have seen in my entire life in Washington.
It's madness. Glad we're calling it out, though. We are calling it out, and we're calling it out every day here on the New American Media. And that's why we appreciate having you here. It's a Saturday show. We're going to get to all of the things out in the world, but this was kind of checking in and touching base. Let me just see if there were any headlines I did not get to. I know I shared this. I mean, I discussed, I guess I did discuss the Roosevelt Reservation. Here, let me pull this up. Let me just do a couple more on this, though. Let's see. President Trump authorized the U.S. military to land along.
We like the partnership. We have a good word revelation.
Take control of our country. The invasion ends now. America's first military force, border secured. This is our land. This is our border. This is our country. What is this post here? The game has changed. Jim Ferguson. 60 feet wide across California, Arizona, New Mexico, the Roosevelt Reservation. But this time it's not just a fence, it's a military operation. Military-grade surveillance, military enforcement rules, restricted. We have to secure our country and kick out the people that snuck in. Military-grade surveillance, military enforcement rules, restricted access like a U.S. base, illegals crossing the border. Now trespassers are on. Now they're trespassers on military property, subject to military security protocols. No sanctuary, no loopholes, no games. For the first time in modern history, the U.S. border is becoming a secured military zone. And the message from Trump is crystal clear. This is our land. This is our border. This is our country. While Biden let the cartel pipelines flourish, while Mayorkas left the gates wide open, Trump just dropped the hammer. America first, military enforced, border secured. The invasion ends now. Man, am I happy about that. We absolutely voted for this. The story says our southern border is under attack from a variety of threats. The complexity of the current situation requires our military to take a more direct role in securing our southern border than in recent past, said in the memo. I would much rather have a stable, safe, and secure border in America than wasting hundreds of billions of dollars in foreign theaters. Make it so that the bad guys aren't flooding into this place like what happened in Europe. Can Europe push back and take control of their countries again? I don't know. But President Trump and Pete Hegseth and Kristi Noem and everybody else are saying you're not doing it here. It's the first time in a long time. I'm really happy to see this. All right. It's time that we took control of our own country. And that does make me happy. First time in a long time. Yeah, it is good to see the change in the military presence at the borders. Agreed. All right, I'm going to get out of here for now. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you joining today. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. Follow us on Rumble at the New American Media. We get monetization from the videos over there when they play, when the ads play. It's like a penny in our wishing well. And you can send us super chats. So they don't censor like YouTube does. So please follow the New American Media. Start an account on Rumble and link up with us. Also, you can search the New American Media in the following places. So you can link up on Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, Kick, DLive, and YouTube by searching the New American Media. Telegram and Signal, we're at TNAM and TNAM Chat. We're on X at American_Media_. And our podcast is the Agree to Disagree Show on Spotify and Apple. I think next week I'll be doing an episode of Strictly Football with Mike Barra. I believe this will be episode 24. We'll kind of go through the free agent frenzy in like a pre-draft episode. And I'll be back on Monday giving you another episode of the TNAM AM Show. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I love you. And we'll talk to you again soon. Take care, everyone.